Welcome back to part 3 of the finale. This is Mike.
This is Bryan.
And like Bryan had talked about a little bit earlier, we both co-wrote this episode, and when we wrote it, it was the length of a normal script, about, I think it was 25 pages, maybe 20. I don't know, somewhere around there. The normal script length that we usually have. And we thought, yeah, this will all fit into one episode, but during the storyboard process and making the animatic and stuff, we realized it had grown to an exponential size, and that it wasn't going to be able. If we had tried to keep it all in one episode, it would have felt really rushed. And we wanted, pacing-wise, we wanted it to feel more like a feature film. So, like, we wanted to hold on shots longer so that the effects could kind of, fire could dissipate and just have these longer moments that we don't normally get to do in an episode because we're trying to tell the story, get through it all in 22 and a half minutes. So
the exact same thing happened with Dr. Phil. I think when he did like his 200th episode, he was like, we just got so much good stuff, we gotta do two. So just like our colleague Dr. Phil, so yeah, we had the same issue.
So it was the first time we had ever done that where we hadn't intended something to be two, but I think it was kind of, the story was telling us it needed to be paced out longer, and we got to add in some great moments that we wouldn't have been able to, and definitely, when we get to it, we'll talk about it more. But the end of the whole thing, you couldn't just have like a 1-minute wrap up. You needed to like let everyone have their moments at the end.
What am I holding? A cherry pit, princess. Correct. And what day is this? It is the day of your coronation. Yes, it is. So please, tell me why, on the most important day of my life, you've decided to leave a pit in my cherry? It wasn't a decision. It was just a small mistake. Small? Do you realize what could have happened if I hadn't sensed the pit in time? I suppose you could have choked? Yes. Then you understand the severity of your crime. I understand, Princess. Please, forgive me. Oh, very well. Since it is a special day, I will show mercy. You are banished. Leave this palace immediately. What are you all looking at? I have 2 feet that need scrubbing. And make sure you get in between the toes. I won't have my first day as Fire Lord marred by poor foot hygiene.
This is one of my favorite shots. I don't know what this is. This is one of my favorite shots in the whole last 2 episodes.
Yeah, and just want to give a little shout out to JM Animation, who animated 320 and 321. They basically almost killed themselves making these 2 episodes back to back with some of the most complex effects and character animation we've done. A lot of CG with the ships and things like that. So they just went above and beyond and just really gave us what I think, there's certain scenes that are just feature quality.
Yeah, it was a grueling process, and they worked so hard. Jamie Young, our animation director, who started with us on the pilot, I just kept telling him, what can we do to simplify this, and basically he wanted to make it. He's like, this is my last chance to work on Avatar, and I just have to make it the best ever. And so a lot of the artists just really, they were so proud of it and wanted to make it as good as it could be, which was our plan from the start. Mike and I had worked on all these shows where the Korean studios were used, we've said this before, but the studios were used as sort of like a factory situation, with little to no contact between showrunners in the States and the artists in Korea, and we just knew we wanted people to be more invested on all levels of the project. So we didn't want people to live in their in their studios and under their desks for months on end, but they really wanted this to be something special, so they pushed themselves that hard. And I mean, we boarded it and wrote it rather ambitiously. I went over to Korea to help them, and man, they were like, just draw fire. There's so much fire in these 2 episodes. I just want to point out that this is some really cool special kung fu from Sifu Manuel Rodriguez. He brought his son Scott over to do some really rare, cool Southern Praying Mantis stuff that we used for Toph for this scene.
Yeah, I just want to point out too that like Brian said, all the fire, I think probably 99% of the fire in this episode, maybe 100%, is hand drawn and hand animated. And the computer is used for the glow effects and the coloring and, the lighting and stuff like that, but the actual movement of the fire is all hand drawn. So
some of these
think about that.
Yeah, some of these shots, like single shots in this episode where Aang is fighting Ozai, took like a week just to do the in-betweens and another week to color. I mean, fires has to be one of the hardest things to animate. It's just so intricate and organic, and luckily Yu Jae Myung is just one of the most amazing effects animators. We're very lucky to have met him.
So this is a fabulous scene that got saved from the cutting room floor.
Marvelous.
It's a bit of a digression, bit ridiculous, but in such a serious finale.
I was totally against it, and then I was like, oh wait, Mike and I will do the voices, and then I'll like it.
That's right.
No, that's not why, but we did do the voices.
Happy birthday.
That's the last joke for a while, people.
Yeah, we did need some levity. Like Ozai's shoulder pads. What were those flashes? So, again, I want to point out Jeremy Zuckerman's world-class score here. It was really cool when we sent this to M. Night Shyamalan. He called me really late one night. He and his family had just finished watching it. One of the first things he said was just like, I loved the orchestra. It just sounded amazing. He's like, it was so cinematic. And it was really fun. We talked about really like kind of esoteric things like, let's do just textures and these like really dissonant chord clusters, and Jeremy had all these ideas about harmonics and things, things he could really take advantage of the live players. And he wrote some software that would do like digital mock-ups of these 24 note clusters and all these things, and little microtonal shifts, and just not the kind of stuff you probably get in animated TV scores.
Yeah, I don't even know what any of that is. So
I know what most of it is, but even beyond the technical nerdiness of it, it just adds a depth and a beauty that we're just so honored to have. This is a really cool sequence. I love that shot. That camera shift is cool.
Yeah, it's nice to see the White Lotus guys have their moment.
It's cool to show like how the firebenders are tied in with this natural event, this phenomenon with the comet in the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out that people might not realize, is that the idea was that the comet is actually skimming
through the
atmosphere. So it's not, although it's not crashing into the Earth, it's like basically just kind of skimming across through the atmosphere. So That's why the sky glows red. It's like basically the sky's on fire. Yeah, this was a very detailed sound design job by Ben Wynn. A lot of this whole episode was probably the most effects he's had to deal with.
Yeah, we were like, all right, Ben. So the fire has to be bigger than any fire we've ever had, and it all has to sound different. Like the firewall has to sound different than the tank fire, and this and that. Just very creative solutions that he came up with. This is one of our favorite scenes, I think. Probably in the whole series. Here you can hear some of these really creepy harmonics from the violins and things.
All right, Hare. It's time to face your doom.
And again, we kind of carefully plotted out Azula's unraveling since the end of episode 315. And this was meant to be when you really knew, she had cracked.
Yeah, we wanted like a visual representation of her craziness too. So like through the series, her hair has been perfect. She's always well dressed and very proper and stuff. And she just chops off her bangs. Her hair's a mess, and just an unkempt disaster.
I also like the ambiguity of this scene. Is it really her mother? Is it a ghost? Is it something in her head? If you look really closely, as that big piece of glass is falling, the mother's fading off. It's kind of a cool little detail.
Yeah, because you want, going into her showdown with Zuko, you want that feeling of like, not only is she super powerful on this day, she's totally out of her mind.
Yeah,
and
total loose cannon.
Yeah.
We're not gonna catch up to him in time. No.
Yeah, it's like, how can Azula be more dangerous? She's like, even crazier. So we see that Ozai has the same connection.
This was a kind of crazy idea Sun Hyun had. He called it the Seed of Fire. Or maybe you called it that. I don't know.
He did.
I never really understood it, but once it was all animated and everything, I think it's cool.
Just want to thank JM Animation for adding all that smoke. They did a beautiful job on all that fire, and then we're like, oh man, but you put the smoke in the other scene. Do you think you could put it on that scene? I mean, that was like a week's worth of work. Just crazy. I love all those birds.
Yeah,
in the
it's very
background,
cool.
Too. Nice scale. It's very. I say this all the time, but it is really hard to get a sense of scale in TV animation.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the process is set up with overseas and things.
And the screen's a lot smaller, frankly.
Things just tend to be, they tend to flatten out when they go through the process. Just kind of, it's an inevitable thing you have to fight. And, little things like that are always satisfying.
I like that he just burns off his clothes. He's
I
like,
think
I'm not going to need these.
I think I added that because it was a little weird that he was just ripping his clothes off, so I was like, he's got to set him on fire to be a little cooler.
Totally.
And we see Ozai. He's down to his fighting weight. He's pumped.
What just happened?
It's Aang! He's back!
Yay. Alright, the madness begins.
So, Bryan storyboarded, I think, all the Ozai action, right? Or a lot of it.
Yeah.
Ozai-Aang battle.
Yeah, this stuff in 320. That was really fun. This all took a lot of board artists. Mike did a lot of 321. He did all of Act 3, and just a bunch of people.
Everyone involved.
Yeah, everybody.
Basically, as people were finishing their shows, we got them to come and help on these, because as the board kept getting bigger and bigger, we were like, oh man, we need some help.
Yeah. Like there's like a scream in that fire. It's really cool. So you see Aang's hesitation to sort of shoot directly at Ozai. He's always kind of shooting below him or throwing something at him that he can avoid.
The Fire Lord is Aang's fighter.
Yeah, and
We need to stay focused.
throughout all the action sequences of the finale, we tried to be careful about the fact that there was still a story being told. Like, we wanted to do cool action, we wanted to be exciting and amazing and stuff, but we also wanted to make sure that there was still this emotional heart driving these action scenes. So for Aang in this sequence, it's him really trying to evade the Fire Lord. You know, he's throwing some shots at him, but he hasn't made up his mind what he's going to do yet, so he's kind of not fully in the fight.
He doesn't have a really good game plan.
Yeah.
And there's like different. Oh, I love that shot. That's one of my favorite ones. Joaquim Santos, the director of 320 and 321, did this storyboard.
That's a lot of fire, isn't it?
Amazing director. I remember he had done the 316 action with all the airships, and I said, "Hey man, I think we're gonna have you do the Sokka versus the airships in 320." And by the end of it, he was like, "I am so sick of drawing those stupid airships with the horns and the tube thing in the sky." He was just, he had had enough, but he did a great job.
If we make it that far, I'll let you know.
It's a cool moment.
Yeah, the sound is just great in this part. You really feel the metal just ripping apart.
It was very challenging. Ben and Jeremy, the track team, really tried to plan. They knew the music had to be big and the sound had to be big, but there's only so much bandwidth that you can take up with audio. Something's got to give. Something has to step out of the way and let the other thing be in the front. So they tried to write around each other, and then sometimes we made conscious decisions to. Like that moment right before the crash, like bring the music down so that we can really hear and feel the impact of the crashes. If you don't do that, then you're not. If it's loud all the time, there's no dynamics. You don't feel the impact.
So I love that there's basically nobody there because Azula banished everyone except the fire sages because she just needed them for the crowning part.
So, of all of the different storylines, I gotta say I feel this one really stole the show. There's something about these two siblings and all the history.
Yeah, it's got the most emotional weight behind it somehow.
Dean Kelly's storyboards are just amazing. Jamie Young's key animation is just amazing. The music, the sound. And this was a case where we made this artistic decision to mute the sound design and really kind of turn it down and let this be more of an emotional, more of an emotional action scene.
Yeah, the sound mix for this, the last 4 episodes, we kind of did like a movie. We'd mix them all the same week, and it was creatively it was really satisfying because we were all there with Ben and Jeremy, and
it was the most people we've ever had.
Yeah, it was a lot of people, and it took a lot of time. Like sometimes with these episodes, they're good, they're all set. Our mixer Tom does a great job, and we go in and we're like, yeah, it sounds great. We got a few notes. Where takes an hour or two. This one there were more decisions to be made, I think, and more opportunities for doing creative things with the sound and music that they took a lot longer, but in the end we were all just so much happier with how it all balanced. And
just want to thank Tom for putting up with all of us and all the notes. Of course, when Ben and Jeremy were both in there, Ben was like, sound up, and Jeremy was like, music up. Tom's like, I can't turn them both up. So that was cool. That's a shot that works better if you have a large TV.
Yeah.
Mike was like, it's too small, and I wish I had made a little closer shot. But
no, but if we saw one of the shots on a projected really big, and all these shots Bryan did where those characters are really tiny it's hard to see on TV. Totally see them on the big screen. It looks awesome.
Well, here's the thing. We storyboarded this right when you got your really big TV.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't have a TV at the time. I go over to Mike's house and he's showing me planet Earth. I mean, we're watching these tiny little, elk or whatever running away from these African dogs or something, and I mean, they were so tiny on the screen. I was like, man, the thing in TV is always so close. Everything's framed so tight. So I really made this conscious effort to do real wide, epic shots. But then when we were doing retakes, we're like, man, I can't see anything. So maybe I went too far. But now I have one of those big TVs.
Unless you got a big TV, then it looks pretty sweet.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
Or sit really close to it.
Don't do that. It's not good for it.
Love this animation of the water coming up and
That's cool.
Going into it. You even see his little shadow swim underneath the water, which I hadn't noticed the first time.
Cool sound design underwater there. So, the plan was Aang was going to get his butt whooped in this episode. Alright, here's this just beautiful music. And not to say the sound design's bad, it's just I actually love how it sounds. We filtered it down, turned it down, and let the music just stand in the front.
Yeah, the music was just so emotionally resonant and powerful that every time the fire was louder, we were just like, we still can't really hear the music, or you could hear it, but it wasn't getting you in the gut. And
this is the best of both worlds. I mean, the fire sounds are kind of distant, but the emotion is really present, and this is my favorite.
Yeah, and since Aang and Ozai's fight is really like nonstop, loud fire and rocks and everything. I think your ears kind of needed a break too. From that. So it's
also, I like that the fights have different characteristics.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's something I, being a fan of action, as a executive producer on the show all this time, I was always saying to the board artists when either in the kung fu sessions with Kisu or when we're storyboarding or doing the startup meetings, each fight has to have its own characteristic, and I really like how this one has a much different pace than the Aang Ozai one. And then, not to say it's better or worse, it's just different. You're like,
Zula, you didn't. Oh man, she did. That was just
another cool sound.
Great moment too.
I like that shot. So Zuko releases most of the electricity, but he didn't really do it right, like Uncle warned him.
Man, Zuko sacrificed his life for Katara, and she still didn't go for him. What up?
She can go with for him. Zutarians.
They're mad right now.
Oh, they're gonna be mad. What are you gonna do?
Just like the rest of your people, they did not deserve to exist in this world.
In my world.
Prepare to join them. Prepare to die.
So, again, everything ends bad in this one.
One more to go.